All right, very good. Again, thank you for being here. So we're going to kind of give you a lot of information that you need between now and the tournament, a lot of information about what happens on tournament day. Once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a team manager for your team members. I'm sure that there are days that are more gratifying than others, but as we get to tournament day, it's going to be really awesome. We've done a little bit of introductions. I'm going to show you what we're going to talk tonight about is some resources that you should already know about because we've sent them out in various newsletters. We're going to talk about what happens during the day and kind of what the flow is, give you some reminders, and then a lot of tips for the tournament day. And like I said before, it's like we've closed down the chat. If you've got questions, you can enter the chat, but only the host will be able to see those going forward. All right, so here's some of the resources. I'm hoping that you have all been to our website. Let me just kind of bring that up for a second, hopefully. Oh, gracious. See, and then it goes crazy. Well, I guess while I'm at the website, I'll show you a couple things. So here's the website, as you know, TVNCDI. Under the tournament tab. Now, in past years, we've had a tournament page. This year, we've got all of our stuff under this tournament tab. So you'll see that we've got the schedules. So if I click on that, you will see the schedules that we have posted. For everybody. You have in your resource area, you've got access to your particular team's challenges, or I'm sorry, schedules. There's also a printable schedule. That's a PDF if you want to download that and print that off. Some other things under the tournament tab is we've got a volunteer. So we need a lot of volunteers on tournament day to help with different things like hospitality and the dime store and some other things like that we give community service hours for. So if you have some students that would like to help us, that would be so appreciated. Last year we had a silent auction. This year we have a silent auction again. This year's silent auction is online. And here's what that looks like. So we have the online auction is up and running. So go to that link on the website and find the silent auction. You need to like create an account. This is the same silent auction software that we use at State and also at Globals. So we have a lot of like really cool pin sets that are up. And you will see they'll all be at the around the dime store on tournament day. So this is all like totally online. You set up an account, you bid online. It will tell you kind of like eBay. It'll tell you if you've been outbid. And then at the end, you pay with a credit card through the application. So it's like pretty cool. What else do we have here? I just posted today the concessions menu. So the student council at Newman Smith High School is going to provide concessions for our teams. And then you've seen these tournament guides and the tournament event guide, the general guide, and then rules of the road. I'm sure you've seen all of those before. Okay, let me. And then, our email address is tvncdi@gmail. We are always open, Gmail, 27 hours a day. All right. So the tournament guide for teams, like a lot of you, most of you will have access to the resource area for the tournament guide for teams. If you're an extreme team, I have those on the website like you just saw, so you can get to it from there. But this tournament guide is something that DI puts out. You can download it from the resource area. It's like kind of what to expect in general from the tournament. It's got a lot of really good information about how to fill out and submit your forms. And so we're going to talk about that in a little while. So check out that tournament guide for teams. And then Rules of the Road has all the information about safety and how a tournament works and interference and general rules. It does have some details about budgets and expenses, which we're not going to talk about in particular in detail tonight, but there's always questions about what kind of things can I put, do I need to put in my expense form? And a lot of that information you can find in Rules of the Road. It talks about scoring, and it talks about special awards as well. This year, we're doing something new. This is required by Destination Imagination. It's called an event guide. So this is kind of hard to find, right? It's not like really obvious to you, but it's like I took a little screen snip of where you would find it on your dashboard. So it's like at the tippy bottom, right? That click here for the event guide. This is like super important because it has all things TVNC. It's got how to do wayfinding, like what kind of colors I should follow in order to find my challenge site. It's got site restrictions. So, like don't come with dry ice is one of the things that we restrict. So make sure that you take a look at this. There's a lot of pro tips in there as well for how to get from here to there and when should I show up for my challenge presentation and a whole bunch of stuff like that. It's like 15 pages, but it's hopefully a pretty easy read. So like I said, this is the first time we've done this. In the past, we've had multiple handouts that had all this kind of information that's now all part of this event guide. So again, there's a link for those of you who can get to the resource area that are again, if you're an extreme team, you don't have access to the resource area, but we try to give you access in other ways. And like I said before, it's like you can get to that from the tournament tab of our website. All right, so again, kind of look in the resource area. All those forms are online that you can see when you log in on your account at Destination Imagination. There is a messaging system that DI uses that's part of the resource area. And look at page 69 in the tournament guide. Starting there, it's going to kind of show you what that means. And as an example, when we do the pre-prep of the forums, and what we're going to do is like before the tournament, you're going to be able to submit your forms for one of our challenge masters to review, and they will give you feedback, and it'll come in through that messaging system, through that messaging area in the resource area. So make sure that you check that out. And I think we've got a couple examples of that. When you come to the tournament, make sure that you bring a mobile device or phone or tablet or laptop. Because if you get to, because that's again, like kind of how we send you the scores. That's how we send you information. Like when you get to the prep appraiser right before your team's going to perform, if there's any changes that you need to make to your paperwork, like we don't have computers spread around it, so it's something that you're going to make sure that you're going to have your own devices with. And then if you have any questions about scores, those are always in person. All right, before the tournament, and I put this link in here, like we did this last year, but like I've had this link in the last, 5 newsletters. It's like a really great video of how to complete those tournament data forms. So if we're not going to show this tonight, but for sure, if you look at past versions of the newsletter, you'll have that link in there. You can also look on page 44 of that tournament guide. Again, that video is like really great. Totally recommend taking a look at that. It's only like 10 minutes or so, but it'll answer a lot of questions, and it's very visual about what you need to do in order to submit your forms. All right, so let's talk about the day. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but we'll just talk in general what happens the day of the tournament. So you are going to enter the building through the main entrance. And by the way, we do not have maps tonight or posted on our website because that's a school district policy that they don't want, maps of the building, the specifics of where the rooms are out in the public. But anyone who came to our tournament last year, I think that you'll find it really easy to kind of wayfind through there. So anyway, you're going to enter the building through that main entrance, and you could drop off your props and then park. The doors are going to open early. I don't have that time yet, but you don't have to be there all day. And you're going to bring your props to the hallway that's near your performance site. And again, you don't come at 8 o'clock if you don't perform until 3 o'clock. So don't bring your props and leave them there. So don't leave them unattended. Now, the only change to this is that most of the teams are going to enter the building from the main entrance that faces Josie Lane. But if you are a technical team, they will perform in the little gym, and that's like going to be around the corner in the back of the building. So you can go in the back and drop your stuff off there, and there will be people that will greet you there. Otherwise, it's not a problem for you to enter the main entrance. It's just that the little gym is toward the back of the building, and it's easier if you kind of go in there. Um, Engineering teams, you have a check-in. So a check-in 1 hour before your performance, and we should have that. That should be listed on the schedule. So 1 hour before your performance, you have to show up to the check-in area, and officials will take a gander at your transporter and your weights. Everybody else comes to the prep area, which is the area right outside of where you're going, right outside the classroom that you're going to be performing. 20 minutes for all teams, except 1 hour. Oh, I don't know that that's right. Everybody comes to their prep area at 20 minutes before. If you're an extreme team, you'll come 20 minutes before, and then you're going to go into a base camp, and that's a whole different thing. I've been communicating with extreme teams about that. So then the way that this works is that your team is at the prep area. The prep area appraiser is going to ask your team some questions. Make sure that you let your team answer those questions and not answer for them. Then what they will do is they will move all the props and everything right inside the door to what we call a launch area. And that'll be kind of taped off, so you'll kind of see. And at that point, the team manager will sit down. There's going to be, they reserve seats for the team manager, seats of honor to sit in that front row. Then the presentation will begin, or there'll be a timekeeper announcer who will say, kind of introduce the teams and stuff like that. And from there, the clock will start and the team will move all of their stuff into the presentation area from that launch area. And I'm going to let Margaret talk in a minute because I know that she's got a lot of information to add on this. After the team presentation, the appraisers are going to talk to the team members, and they're going to ask them questions. Make sure that your team knows that that's going to happen, that adults are going to ask them some questions, and maybe practice that with them. And kids are kind of taught to never say that they don't know or whatever. So make sure that if somebody was working on the contraption part of their solution, that if a appraiser asks them about them and they say, oh, I didn't work on that, but Billy did, talk to them. Make sure that they understand that, so that they're not kind of fumbling through something that they weren't as involved with as some other members of the team. When the appraisers are talking to the team members after their presentation, that anybody, the team, the parents, spectators, they can help remove those props. But once we talk about interference all the time, and people can help move the props into that launch area. But once they're in the launch area, it's like total hands off for anyone other than the team until the team is done performing. Then about a half hour after they perform, and a little bit longer if your team is going first thing in the morning, you will receive scores, and you will receive an email that says that your score is available. So you can review your scores at that point. If you have questions about your scores, you can go back to your performance area and talk to somebody about them. Or the rest of the day you can spend watching other teams perform, which is what we always encourage. And then in the evening, we're going to have award ceremony at 5:30. I've got that highlighted because teams are performing later this year than they did last year, so it's a little bit of a tighter time frame between the last team and having everything ready for the award ceremony. So we're shooting for 5:30. We hope that's right now, we don't foresee any issue, but you just kind of never know. Margaret, what can you add about kind of that walkthrough of the day?
So yeah, so couple things. One is that your instant challenge area or check-in is going to be at a completely different time of the day, at least an hour difference from your main presentation. So that's something to think about when, maybe everything stays in the car until after instant challenge, if your instant challenge is first and there's enough time to do that. The other thing I want to say is that please be talk to the team about being respectful. They're going to be excited. But it's so easy for somebody to be, running around, running through the hall, or, take a corner fast and bump into somebody else, another team's stuff, props and things. And how awful is it if one of your kids, if your props are the ones that somebody runs into and suddenly, here you are in the near the prep area and you have to start fixing things. And the team has to do all of that kind of thing themselves, of course, right? So please talk to your kids about being respectful and calm a little bit. Um, definitely you'll be able to follow the signs and arrows based on the color of what your challenge color is. So when you look at that schedules page, your challenge and you find your challenge, you'll know what color those signs are that you're looking for. Um, it is nerve-wracking, but really cool to watch your kids take everything from launch area, the couple of feet usually. I mean, most of these are classrooms, to where the performance area, and a lot of us just kind of block off the corners, like we say, roughly this is your space. The team can move a little bit outside of that space if there's room. You will have at least what the challenge says is the amount of space for your challenge. In Rising Stars, we try to give them a little bit of extra room. Um, and the other thing is, once you sit down, don't mouth the words. Don't keep looking at your clock. Don't be counting down. Really put your hands under your knees, take a deep breath, and what happens happens, and you're going to be so proud of them and they're going to be so proud of themselves, even if something that isn't perfect, because it's an exciting day and the appraisers are excited from the very first team to the very last team. They want to talk to your kids. Make sure your kids know to literally gush. An appraiser will say, okay, great, I think I got it. But, the kids shouldn't answer with monosyllables, let them just, really say everything they know about whatever the appraiser is trying to score them on, because that's why the appraisers are up there talking to them. And the appraisers will get down, kind of on their level. They'll scooch down. They'll, ask to see, show me how that motor works. Show me the gears. Show me what you did. What didn't work along the way? They're going to ask questions about the process. How did, not only, who thought of it or how did you do it, but what didn't work along the way? What are you proudest of? What do you think is the coolest thing you had on stage today? I'm supposed to be looking at your team choice element about, how you characterized the old lady. Tell me, how did you do your research? So they're gonna ask interesting questions, um, and the kids really should be able. And you're not able to be up there helping them out at all. And so that's important in the prep area too. Your kids definitely need to know. I know many of you, if you're elementary or lower, you're going to, maybe even middle school, you may be the one who's typing into the computer, but it needs to be what the kids are telling you. And the prep area will be surprised if your kids have no idea what's on their forms. That will not bode well for your team. They need to know what their team choice elements are, and what was described in their tournament data form. So make sure that you've really gone through that with your team, and your team from any competitive level team, the team should have written those forms. You can help them edit, trim in, be more concise, but you cannot rewrite or write from scratch their forms. And the appraisers really are there to, the middle of the word praise, we went over this in appraiser training, is all about finding the value and awarding as many points as they possibly can based on what they see and what the kids can show them during the question and answer time. So that's why that's an important thing. Anything
And I
else you
like,
want me to talk about?
yeah, I like what you said too about sometimes the contraption didn't work.
Mhm.
And the appraisers will say, this is kind of an opportunity for your team to kind of like clean up, right? Right? Like give them more information about, because they'll come, I will guarantee you the appraiser will come over and say, it looks like this was really cool, like, but it didn't work. So how was it supposed to work? Right. And so that kind of helps them understand as well. Like, Margaret says, like, they're not looking to just kick the knees out from under the kids.
Right.
They're trying to find, like, I want to find where I can give the team the most points. And so, and sometimes when things doesn't work, that it's related to risk taking, and risk taking is a big deal in DI. And so it's not like a crash and burn kind of thing. It's like, well, this is what we tried, and maybe our reach, our grasp didn't match our reach or whatever. But yeah, so that's an opportunity for the kids to kind of, and I love those teams that go, oh, let me tell you about this, and they're just like super excited to tell the appraisers like how great their performance, or how great their contraption is, and the whatever they learn and stuff like that. So it's like, it's pretty amazing watching them do that. As a team manager, like, do not say, oh, here's where they found it on the internet or whatever. Don't don't interrupt in here. I mean, I've seen it, right, where they go, well, here's what they did first, show a video. It's like, no, I just want to talk to the kids. So it's like, it's all about the team.
Right.
All right. So Margaret mentioned, so what's up with the colors? So you will see that if you're technical, you're going to be following, orange to find your location, your challenge location. Scientific is yellow and on there. Extreme is beige. And then general kind of signs of, here's where the cafeteria is, here's where the lounge is, here's where information is. That's going to be in gold. All right. Let's talk pre-check. So I'm trying to get this like crazy thing off my screen so I can see more things. All right. So we have this thing called prep pre-check. Now, on tournament day, you show up to the prep area, which is right by where you're performing. And that's when they do this final check of paperwork and stuff like that. But we have something called a pre-check where if you submit your forms, and you'll see those colors down there, like when you're doing your forms, you'll see that as you go through and write the forms up, and you'll see that you'll submitted kind of thing. You'll have a prep appraiser will review those forms and identify any changes that they advise. And that's where that kind of communication through the resource area kind of takes place. So you can like submit your forms, and we ask you to like submit, like, yes, like submit them when you think you're done. Don't do this like submit after I've got half of them done, and make the prep appraiser look at your stuff for like 5 different times, right? It's like, okay, we've gone through everything. Think we're good. Submit them, but you got to submit it before February 19th. And once they're submitted, the prep appraiser will take a look at them. If they have suggestions for you, they will let you know through that communication area, and they will set your status to resubmit, which means then like you can make some changes and then you could submit again. And you could do that as many times. But like I said, it's like, don't do like we're right under the gun. I want to see if the first paragraph passes muster, right? We want to see like the whole form. So all of that gets done before, as long as you submit it before February 19th. If you can't get it done before then, it's still okay to like show up on tournament day. But I'm telling you that like you've got 20 minutes to change something if you need to change something. So it's nicer to kind of, get it done ahead of time. So once the prep appraiser, the pre-check has been, is all good, then that appraiser will set your paperwork to pre-checked. And that's where you see that little blue. So once you see blue, you're like good to go. Right. So you can't like make any changes. at that point. If you need to make changes between then and tournament day, then you'll need to let them know on tournament day, which is again why you want to bring computers with you. All right. So again, if you don't submit it by the deadline, you can still do it, on tournament day. But there's like big angst, right? So that's why you kind of want to do it ahead of time. Plus, your kids get it done ahead of time, and then you can, hang out, right, until tournament day. Okay. Did you guys see? I think I saw something come in on the chat. What was the question?
Oh.
What color is improv, Monica?
Pink.
Pink.
Hot pink.
Yep. We won't let you forget. And like Margaret said too, when you see, what are all these crazy quilt colors as part of the schedule, it's like, that's the color that you're looking for, right? Okay. Who is at your presentation site? So there's a challenge master. So the challenge master is the person who knows all things about this challenge, and they're like super in charge, and they've gone through a lot of training through DI headquarters and through Texas DI to know everything there is to know about that challenge. Then in there's also somebody called a head appraiser, where they're kind of watching the appraisers to see if they need any help, or if they need to, if an appraiser accidentally did something, they could like unsubmit their score and kind of help them with that. There's the prep area appraiser, who's going to be outside of the presentation site, right? Like in the hallway, and they're going to be checking the paperwork and talking to the kids. They're going to ask the team questions like, is it okay if people take pictures of your presentation and stuff like that? And again, like let the kids do it. It's like the most kind of brain dead kind of thing you're going to do all day, right? It's like, okay, you guys got this. You know what to tell them. And then there's going to be appraisers in there. Now, the way this works, so we do what's called mobile scoring, and so you're going to see the challenge appraisers. They're going to have a laptop or a tablet or their phone, where they can enter scores and like put notes in there and stuff like that. So I want you to know that that's what they're doing. They're not like checking their email or checking their stock prices or whatever. They are, if they're looking down, they're probably, entering scores and stuff like that. And so there are different types of scores as well, from your challenges. There are subjective scores, which is like their opinion. There's objective scores, like how many balls, got in the bucket or whatever. So the way that they set up the appraisers is so there's multiple people looking at multiple things, right? So it's not just one guy looking at the story and one guy looking at, the prop or whatever. There's multiple people. So there's, it should be very well balanced, and it should be where there's multiple people looking at the same things. Then there's going to be somebody called a timekeeper announcer, and they're the ones that are going to announce your team when your team is in the launch area. They're going to come out and say, this is, the Kent Carlin team, and, they're doing such and such challenge, and they've spent all, this much time working on it, and they have given permission to record or whatever. They're going to say stuff like that. And then they're going to say stuff like, okay, team, are you ready? Right, that kind of thing. And they'll kind of talk to the team to kind of get them warmed up a little bit too. I've noticed that a lot of the good ones will come over and like, hey, where are you guys from? And, are you having fun today? And they'll tell them like a dad joke, you know what I'm saying? So they'll just kind of get them kind of loose a little bit, because they're like, they walk in here and go, oh my gosh, it's the Inquisition or something. So the announcer timekeeper, they're pretty swell. And then in instant challenge, there's like a set of appraisers there as well. In instant challenge, every appraiser appraises every element. So everybody's looking at everything when you're in there. And then there's more information about what everybody kind of does on page 4 of that tournament guide. Anything you guys want to add to the who's who at the site?
Oh, you did
Nope.
great.
All right, cool.
I got nothing to say.
Nothing. All right. And why am I not? Okay, there we go. Okay, so walk through the day for instant challenge. Instant challenge, no audience, right? And if you have multiple teams, so what happens is like the team and one team manager only. And it has to be a team manager of record. So our people have who the team managers are and stuff like that. If you have actually let me go back on that. If you only have one team and you have a code team manager, I think you could bring both of them in, right, Margaret? I think it gets different if you've got multiple teams with
That's
multiple
right.
team managers. Okay. So if you have a single team and there's just 2 or 3 of you or whatever, you guys can go in, I believe. You'll have to check with the prep people. There's a prep also, right, for instant challenge. If you have multiple teams, and for those of you with multiple teams, you probably looked at the schedule and went, oh my gosh, there's no way I can go to 2 different team challenges and 2 different instant challenges. What happens if you have multiple teams is you can only go to the latest, you can only go to the latest scheduled instant challenge and watch that. And here's why. Because if you go to 2 instant challenges, and maybe it's the same instant challenge, right? You don't know like which teams, it's like now you know things, right? And we don't want you to know things about what the challenge is. So you're going to have to decide, because as we were doing the schedule, you could see that there's like one set of teams where both teams go to instant challenge at the same time. Now they're going to be in different rooms, but you're going to have to pick either your team goes in there without a team manager or your co-team manager goes, but only one. And I will tell you that I personally have never witnessed an instant challenge from the time our team was 3rd graders. They did not want me to go in there with them. And I was grateful for their for their obvious like knowledge of how nervous I get. So I was kind of grateful. Anyway, so that's that. If you have questions about that, when you have multiple teams, like certainly reach out to us. Again, for instant challenge check-in is 20 minutes before. They're going to take your technology. They don't want you having like smartwatch, a phone, a tablet. They don't want you to have any of that stuff in the instant challenge room, because they don't want you to like time or take pictures or any of that kind of stuff, because as you remember, all these instant challenges are secret, right? So and the teams will walk in there and they'll take a pledge that they're not going to tell anybody and stuff like that, right? So they're going to take your technology and they're going to put it in a bag and you'll be able to pick it up later. So then the team is escorted into a holding room where they're going to hang out there until the appraisal team is ready for them. And typically, I mean, that's kind of another kind of stressful kind of thing. I've seen teams in there do like little improv games or just kind of keeping loose and stuff like that. Chocolate helps a lot. Our candy of choice was Twizzlers, the official candy of Destination Imagination. But anyway, like kind of
can I say there is scientific proof that a little bit of chocolate can boost creativity and endorphins. And so now I'm not talking 3 candy bars or espresso beans, chocolate covered espresso beans. I'm talking 2 Hershey's Kisses or something right before they go into instant challenge. And the other thing that I suggest is that prior to going to that 20 minutes before your IC time, is get your team for 10 minutes before that in a quiet corner somewhere and just do a couple of like focusing in things. There's a whole handout on our website under team manager resources called listening exercises. And they're things like you just like get in the zone together. Just simple little things to get them, focused in on each other and quiet and ready, rather than being, all over the place and then having to, having their energy all out before they ever get in there.
Yeah,
Those
perfect.
big tips.
Yeah. So then after the holding room, someone will come, a volunteer will come and take them to the presentation room where, they'll do that, the pledge, and they will do their instant challenge, and then they'll be led to a chill out room where they're going to kind of chill for a while. And again, right there, not supposed to be talking about this instant challenge like once they leave the upstairs. So all the instant challenges are done upstairs on the second floor. And then once they go downstairs, it's like they can't talk about anything. So, make sure that your team parents and grandma and grandpa know not to, drill them or grill them about, hey, what'd you do? Were there tennis balls? Because teams have gotten into trouble and you could get your team disqualified. And I've seen it, and I'm not even kidding. So, I've seen people post stuff on Facebook, right, about, hey, they did really great on that ping pong challenge. It's like, oh my God. It's like, don't do that, right? So, yeah, they're very, because it's like, well, plus, do you want to give other teams like helpful hints on how to solve the challenge? Like, probably not. So anyway, so they go to the chill out room, and that's where they can go, oh man, this, I should have done it this way, or I felt really good about this, whatever kind of stuff. And so they can just kind of get it out of their system, and then they'll leave, they'll go downstairs, and that's where parents will be waiting. You will not receive instant challenge scores, and the instant challenge appraisers will not give you feedback. Okay, so just so you know. Okay. We've talked about clarifications kind of throughout the year. So make sure that you check out all those clarifications on the DI website to see if there's any like glitchy thing or some question that you had or something that, clarifications are things that like maybe teams have had questions about the challenge or the wording or the something, right? That DI has, it's kind of, what's that called? Errata, I think, right? Where they've already published the stuff, right? The manuals and the documents and stuff. So this is where they're going to say, okay, this didn't change, or we need to change it this way. So there are a couple different classifications. There's like if just a team asked it, and then the appraisers will know that this team has asked a clarification question, and this is what their answer was. Or there's sort of universal questions that it gets clarified. Anyway, take a look at that on that website, and there's in page 59 on that tournament guide, there's a little bit more of how that all works. All right, so we've actually had a drop in on team choice elements, so we're kind of like, we'll sort of kind of skim through this, but team choice elements are going to be, and I think in only, let's see, Improv, Rising Stars, and Extreme do not do team choice elements, but everybody else does these team choice elements.
They can. Rising Stars,
Rising Stars, yeah, they can, right? It's optional. That's right.
To.
Yep. Thank you. Yep. So the team choice elements are two creations that your team chooses to include in your team challenge that can be anything, but it can't be something that's already being scored, or an element that's already being scored. So if you're being scored on, let's say the challenge says you have to have a song. Well, you can't have your team choice element be a song because a song is already being scored. But there's a lot of information with really great examples in the rules of the road on page 24. So, and also kind of to Margaret's point before about filling out your paperwork, the forms, you will be asked what are the team choice elements. And we really stress to be succinct and like on point, right? So the appraisers are going to look at what your team choice, what you've listed as your team choice elements, and it's got to be something that they're going to be able to recognize right away. Like if you have to go on for a paragraph and a half, they're just going to be like, I'm not even really sure what I'm looking at, right? But it's just like, the bird with the orange feathers, and the feathers are cool because of this, right? Okay, that's it, right? You don't have to say how they, thought about this or whatever, right? Just the facts so that you call out what it is that you want them to pay attention to. All right, team identification sign. You are required to have one. It is not a scored element, but it should have the team name, the number, school organization, and stuff. And there's more information on the rules of the road. And I'll tell you why this is important, because you will see from the schedule that there might be, 2 or 3 Carrollton Farmers Branch teams in a row, right? We usually try not to do that, but it's how it ended up. So you want to make sure that they're looking at your team, and that's how the appraisers is like, okay, I'm bringing up my mobile scoring and it says I'm number 750 whatever, and that's what your team sign says. And this does not have to be something fantastic. Like my team, the night before the tournament, we would have pizza, and the pizza box ended up being our team sign. So yeah, but I mean, it's like if you have people that want to bling it up, go for it. But it's not scored, but it is for identification. Okay. We could talk about budget and expense report until next Saturday, but we're not gonna. So everybody, all the competitive team challenges has an assigned budget that you see in your challenge materials, and there's a limit, except Improv, Rising Stars, and Extreme. That budget is the total value of the materials that your team uses in your presentation, right? So that day, not necessarily what your team spent learning how to cut PVC, right? Like I bought $1 million of PVC and 27 cents of it is going to be in the presentation. That's what you put on your form. There's a lot of information in the rules of the road. There's actually an online module that in the training modules that DI has that talks ad nauseum about budget and expense reports. And there's, I know that you could have like a zillion questions. And if you have questions after you've looked at those materials, for sure, like email us, because we don't want something weird to happen kind of thing. But, there's a lot of like, is this junk or is it not junk? Is it free or is it not free? Like, you know what I mean? There's a lot of those kind of questions, and almost all of them are answered in the rules of the road. So take a look at that. Margaret, do you want to add anything to the budget expense?
No, just that you just can't stress enough that you, the team manager, needs to know what's allowed and what's not allowed and how to cost things out from the rules of the road. Do not have your team get some sort of lowered score or have to redo something at the very last second because you didn't really read. It's 2.5 pages. I mean, literally, it is important that you read that. I just can't stress it enough.
Yeah, and the reason that DI has budgets is because they want to level the playing field, right? They don't want, one team that's particularly, has money to spend, way out of range than other teams, right? So they just want, and I will tell you that my personal opinion is that it's like a badge of honor to see how low your fabulous contraption can cost. So take a look at that. The other thing to notice about this is that we're kind of a safety net, right? So when you're doing that pre-prep stuff where you're submitting it to ahead of time by the 19th, by the 19th, so someone else can look at it. If they see, sometimes people are like, oh, this was all stuff I had laying around. Okay, well, that's not free, right? So they'll catch those kind of things and have you kind of go back, which is another reason why you kind of want to do that. The other thing is, if you show up on tournament day and you've got, like, I don't know, like a remote control car that you spent, $175 on or something, and you listed as, no, I didn't buy this new, or you didn't have it at all, that's going to raise eyebrows and stuff. So, make sure that you have it in your budget. And yeah.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk safety.
Mhm.
Your team's presentation must be in compliance with the guidelines and the rules of the road. So if we see a live animal, which is always my favorite, I dream of having a live animal show up at a tournament. I don't know that I would turn them away, but rules of the road says can't have a live animal. And there's others. So there's stuff that's in the rules of the road. And then in that event guide, that I told you about before, there's some other things like if you have helium balloons, they have to be under your control. And there's some other stuff on there. So we don't want you to show up with something that we've already, that either DI Inc. or TVNC has said, we're not accepting this kind of stuff. So if there's anything that looks like it could be hazardous or not in compliance, you could either risk a scoring deduction, or the prep appraiser might say, I'm sorry, you can't use this. Another thing is like turning the lights on and off. So it's not necessarily like chemicals or whatever, but there's like stuff that just, we want to obviously keep people safe, and we want to keep, the school from, burning down or gouging stuff in the gym or whatever. Right. And they could as well, if there's something, there's risk or some safety thing going on in the challenge, the appraisers can stop you and have you kind of fix things or whatever. So just kind of make sure that nobody gets hurt. Let's talk scoring. So when after your team is done performing, your appraisal team will give you a page that has sticky notes on it. And this was like always my team's favorite. So it was like just little stickies that have comments that the appraisers saw that they loved about your team, like girl power, or I love that song, or the guy that was the frog was really amazing. And it's like super fun for your team to kind of see those sticky notes. And sometimes they care more about the sticky notes than they care about their score. Gentle warning is, the appraisers are not going to say, you know what, that was like really great, but it's the Constitution, not the Declaration of Independence, right? I mean, they're not going to like do that kind of thing. So they're all going to be very positive and really fun. My gentle warning is, please don't take that as, well, we got all these glowing things, and so our score is probably going to reflect that, because it may or may not, right? They're just like making comments about how fun they thought that your performance is. So sticky notes, you're going to get those as you leave the performance area, or as your team kind of goes out. You're going to get an email that says that your score, here's where to find your scores. And like I said, like what we tend to do is the first couple, 2-3 teams in the morning, the appraisers are just kind of define their sea legs a little bit. So they might not submit those scores right away until they kind of see what it is they're kind of looking for, right? So if you perform at 9:00, you might not get your scores until 10. We like the score room, and I tend to watch the rooms to make sure that the scores are getting out like in a timely fashion, and that it's not like because we get notifications that say, okay, this team, performed at 10:00 and they don't have their scores yet. Like it's 2:00 in the afternoon. It's like, oh no. So we'll watch that to make sure. And then there's 2 types of scoring. There's objective and there's subjective. So objective is whether or not the solution accomplished a certain task, right? So it's like kind of a yes or no, or like numbers, like how many oranges ended up in the basket, or did the fairy godmother turn into a pumpkin? Yes or no, right? It's like, it is provable or whatever. And actually objective, like all the appraisers who are looking at that scoring element have to agree. So they have to say, that did this fairy godmother whatever change, and they all have to agree with, is it yes or is it no, right? Then subjective are based on the opinion of the appraiser. And some appraisers have a sense of humor and some don't. Some like certain things. I mean, you just kind of don't know, right? But it's the opinion of the appraiser. Now, there's an appealed process that if you feel like there's an appeals process where you can only appeal the objective scores. So, the score you got says, that you got 5 apples in the bin or whatever, and you're like, I'm pretty sure we got more than that or whatever, then you can go and talk to the appraisers about that sort of thing. Subjective, it's based on opinion. You can't argue about somebody's opinion. Okay. So understand that. The same thing with instant challenges. Like you can't appeal instant challenge. So anyway, so the points that you're going to get are things that you already kind of know about, right? Teamwork, creativity, use of materials, integration, and risk. So that, and you have in your materials, your challenge materials, everything you're going to get scored on. So then, well, let me go to the appeals process first. So if there's some issue, you have to ask these questions like in person, and look on page 50 of Rules of the Road. It'll kind of tell you how to go through that. And typically, if you have an appeal, the appeal should come from the team, right? So the team goes to the head appraiser or whatever and says, we'd like to talk to you about such and such. We have a question about this. When we did such and such, that one was the rabbit. That wasn't the whatever, right? So the team should be prepared to do that. And I'm making this into a bigger thing than it is, because it's like, people typically don't appeal their score. All right. So then there's this thing called raw and scaled scores. So this is, again, more information in the tournament guide. But what they do, let me see, I had, okay, so let me make sure I'm like looking at my script, because there's always kind of questions about this raw scale. So after the performance and after all the appraisers have submitted their scores, your team receives a score through that messaging area called a raw score. And I will say it is a preliminary score. So somebody might later go back and change something, and you won't get notice that something has changed. A variety of things, such as like math corrections, can cause the scores to change, that kind of thing. Ultimately, your team will receive a scaled score, which is raw scores that are adjusted proportionally in each of the scored sections to reflect the team's total score. And I know that sounds really complicated, but so what that means is, so let's use instant challenge as an example, right? Instant challenge, I think, is 100 points. Is that right? Did I remember that right? So it's 100 points. So everybody's going to get a score. Some people get 60, some people get 70, some people get 30s. Whoever had the top score, like let's say the top score was 80, the scoring program will scale it against the max and adjust everybody's score accordingly, right? So the guy that had the highest score now gets the 100, and it adjusts everybody the same way. Like I said, probably read that, because like I'm going to give you some like math errors on this, but yeah, so it's like your team receives a scaled score, which is raw scores that are adjusted proportionally. By having the score scaled in each different section, that's how, that's what they add up to get. I think isn't the total like 400 points, right? So you get 300 for the team challenge and 100. That's how you can come up with 400, because the scoring is like real weird if it was just raw. So that's how that all works. So it's like all the magic happens in the scoring program, which will make all of those calculations.
Thank God that nobody has to do the math, and therefore the math is correct.
Yes. This like old school, there were people like appraisers that were called number crunchers, right?
Yes.
Where they were like adding the stuff up. It's like, holy cow.
Exactly.
Yeah, no. We're using computers for what they're intended to use, and that's doing numbers. All right. Scoring deductions. How are we doing? Okay. You're going to hear my alarm go off in a moment, because I wanted to make sure I'm not running too late. Okay, whoops. Let's go back. Okay, deductions. This, and again, we're going to be talking about this like this happens all the time, but it really doesn't. So there's different types of deductions if something bad happens. So there's interference, there's illegal procedure, and there's unsportsmanlike conduct. So look in the Rules of the Road, and they'll define what each of those are, because some of them are like we take points away, some of them are we take percentages away. There's unsportsmanlike conduct, which is we watched people completely destroy somebody else's prop. Like way bad. Sometimes it's we've determined there's interference, and it's typically because the team has said there's been interference. Sometimes it's like, they read the challenge wrong, and what they were doing wasn't quite what the challenge meant for them to do. It's kind of that kind of thing, right? So anyway, kind of check that out. Those get assigned, or they get automatically, again, kind of calculated in your score. I will say that very sadly, several years ago, there was a team that had one of those radio controlled cars and just rammed it into another team's prop. Ram, while the parents were all standing around yip yapping until this prop was, destroyed. Those people, they were disqualified. We're like, okay, we can't give enough of a deduction to merit, or in proportion to what kind of happened here. And a lot of times things happen. Like sometimes you walk past a prop and like, oh no, like a little thing, you brushed up against it or whatever. But make sure that you like help fix it or whatever. I mean, these kids spent a long time on this, as you well know. So, we just want everybody to behave. Okay. There are special awards that are given for various reasons. We have like basically 3 types of awards. So Spirit of DI, ones that act like as a superior role model. There's a Renaissance Award that's for outstanding engineering skill, and there's a Da Vinci Award for having a unique approach to a solution. And all of these awards are nominated by the appraisers as your team is performing. So those are like really cool awards, and the team gets like a special medal, and they get announced at the award ceremony. And so this is like above and beyond kind of how your team performed their thing, and it's not always given to the team that came in first place.
For sure.
So,
sometimes the most creative solutions that we see may have had something go wrong, or may didn't work the way it was supposed to, but wow, was that amazing what they tried to do. And they might get a Da Vinci Award. Something might be just like an amazing design, and how it was built. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't fancy, but it was intricate. And so you may watch another team and say, well, that didn't even look that fun. That I didn't like their story that much, but this machine that they made was unbelievable, and the appraisers will call that out with a special award. So it is really a high honor for a team to be given a special award.
Yep. And the special awards get announced at the end of the award ceremony. So don't go home after you've heard, improv awards, because there's things that happen later.
Right.
All right. So what else is going on at the tournament? So we have, dime store, right? Like we're DI, everything has to be DI. So the dime store, they always have like crazy hats and things that light up. They will have like pins and t-shirts for sale there, and a whole bunch of like fun novelty kind of things. They take credit card only. No, credit card and like actual like real money. There will be pin trading for people who are so inclined. Now, if you're not into this, like the pin tradition thing of DI, is that kind of like what our little pins were this year. DI is like really big on trading pins and getting pins from from other regions or from state or from globals or whatever. It's like pretty cool to collect all these pins. They're like always like super creative. There's going to be a scavenger hunt that's on the first floor, because we know that a lot of teams that are done performing like early in the afternoon, we don't want you to necessarily go home, like hang out with us until the award ceremony. There's that silent auction, which I told you about before. They'll probably have a note about that in the upcoming newsletter. There's concessions, again, that's being sold by I think it's a student council from Newman Smith High School. And then we have like a backdrop, what do they call it? A step and repeat. So there's like photo ops. And I think that Abby who's our tournament director, has some other kind of photo op things available for the kids. And then the award ceremony, we're shooting for 5:30. Like, we think that should certainly be fine. We just want to let you know that sometimes, there's some glitch or whatever, and it might be a little later, but we typically have a DJ, and so things will be jamming. I mean, like last year, I was like on the other end of the school, and I could hear the DJ jamming, and it was amazing. So,
And we
the way
dance and we
oh
throw
my goodness.
t-shirts. I mean, we do all kinds of
Oh
fun
yeah,
stuff.
and then the chicken dance comes on, and
Right.
the Carlins go home.
Macarena.
Oh yeah, chicken dance, not my favorite. Okay. But yeah, there's like line dance and kid friendly music. It's big fun. So I hope that you guys can all come. The way that kind of works is I bring blankets. The teams and the team managers sit on the floor, and the parents will sit in the bleachers.
You might arrange, if you have a few different teams from your school. We have teams who've like put up like a school banner, flag, little thing that they can hold up, or sometimes a team will come in, they all have the same hat, or sometimes, and you'll kind of group together, or maybe pom-poms, or something fun. So that's a fun way to kind of celebrate the team at the award ceremony.
Yeah, just kind of hanging out. Yeah, cool.
Can I say one more thing about pins?
Please. Yes.
Well, as you move to this next slide, so our pins are really cute this year. The whole magic theme with the bunny who comes out of the hat, and the sawed in half thing, that bunny, and the poof, the magic wand. So I think that our regional pins are going to be pretty cool. So as you go to the next slide, we would encourage lots of teams to go, even if you are not a qualified, if you're not a top scoring team, because it's just at the University of Texas at Arlington. So it's only a half-hour drive away. Gather whoever, is on your team that can go that day, and go observe and do the pin trading thing. All you need is a little bath towel. DI sells pin trading towels. We probably have them at our DI dime store too. But it's a really fun experience, and to get to see the first place teams from all over the state do the same challenge that your kids did, or it's a way to experience some of the other kinds of challenges that, if you were doing the fine arts all year, and really zeroing in on that, it might be really fun to go see the state level of some, middle school and high school technical teams or scientific teams, to give your kids, kind of the excitement about what they're working towards in the future. It's a great way to keep the team together and get them excited about the next year. So tell us about Lone Star Finals.
Well, and it's super close. I mean, like, I live in Carrollton, and you get on George Bush, and it's like half an hour, 20 minutes maybe,
Right.
to get to UT Arlington.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, kind of check it out. So advancement to state, it's called Lone Star Finals, LSF. We got to have 3-letter acronym. And so the advancement rules for that is that first place in every challenge level gets advanced to state, right? So if you're, scientific, first place, that's a bad example. First place improv, elementary, they go to first place improv. Middle school, you go to first place, or you go to your what am I trying to say? You are eligible to go to state. Some of our sites have enough participants that we can also send second place for them. So watch for that. And then early learning doesn't advance to state. And I should say that I did get a question. They asked about how long awards last, and it's usually about an hour, right? About an hour.
I would say so, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
If they start at 5:30, you'll definitely be out of there by 7.
Yeah, for
even
sure.
if we don't exactly start at the stroke of,
right.
As much of a stickler as Catherine is, she cannot control
how
it all
cannot.
comes out of the
I
scoreboard.
cannot. So we do as much as we can, because you got to understand, we're getting scores, we're printing stuff out, we're making sure that that the awards PowerPoint is right. So a lot of stuff going on. So the later, and if there's some glitch in some of the rooms, like the later they go, then that shorter that little time span is. Anyway, okay. So it's at the University of Texas Arlington. It's open to everybody, spectators. You have to have a wristband, but I can't remember. Like you buy a wristband, it's pretty cheap. Go on the Texas DI website. There's a tab for their tournament. So the tournament fee is $350. So check with your districts and schools to see if they will sponsor you for those teams, like Carrollton Farmers Branch and Louisville. Those school districts sponsor their teams, and they might sponsor the first place team, but not the second place. I don't know. And I totally lied here about a virtual meeting. We usually have a meeting like the following week to talk to the teams that are going to state. We're not going to do that on the 28th. I'm thinking more like the 25th, and I forgot to change this. One thing I want to mention about state. So they have this thing called bonus teams. So let's say you ended up second place in technical, and only the first place in technical is going. What Texas DI does is they look at all of the scores from every team in technical elementary, all of them, and from every region, and they will see who's the next highest score. So what they do is they try to fill up their site. So let's say they're going to have 2 sites, and now they want 20 teams, but there's only 18 or whatever that qualified. So they will look through all the data and see who's the next highest score of everybody in the state in that challenge level, and they will give you an invitation to go to state, and we'll get that information like the day, I don't know, the 24th, I guess like probably the 24th. So if you end up second place, or in some of those like third place, right, if we're sending second place to state, don't destroy your props or anything until you find out whether or not your team has a bonus team. And like I said, we'll find out right away, and we'll let everybody know whether you're in or out, kind of thing. Okay. Let me, stop recording.